Hello, welcome to the Guest EdTech Virtual Summit Dubai. Thank you for joining us. We're pleased to introduce you to Leisa Grace Wilson, an experienced school leader and editor at Teach Middle East. We hope that you enjoy this session, and I'll now hand it over to Leisa. Thank you.
Well, hi everyone, and welcome to the Guest EdTech Summit. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here and to present to you this afternoon. Hopefully it will be afternoon when you're watching this or whenever you're watching this. My name is Leisa Grace, and I would like to talk to you today on why I think every educator should create content. Now, I know that this is probably not the usual topic of an EdTech presentation, but I do think it's a very relevant one. And I hope by the end of this presentation, I can get quite a few more of you to be involved in content creation, content curation, and to actually share your expertise a little bit more freely with the world. So stick with me. I should be here for about 25 minutes. I'm going to make sure I fit it all in that time. And at the end of it, I'm easily found, so you can definitely get in touch with me. Now, why should you be creating content? Now, we know the world definitely is changing. It has changed, and it continues to change. Right where we are now, we're consuming a lot more content than ever before. In fact, we are being bombarded by content. But sometimes it's not the right content. It's not exactly the type of content that is beneficial to us or that we even want. And the fact is, there probably isn't any content out there the way you would create it. So today, my job is to convince you that even though the world, the internet, books, everything, even though there's so much content, you still have space and that there is need for your content. Now, content is currency. If you know any major bloggers or vloggers, YouTubers, you will understand that as long as you can create content that captures people's attention, then you're rolling in the box. Now, that's not the aim of this presentation, and we will do some myth busting when we move on in the slides, but I just have to let you know that whereas people used to talk about other things as currency, right now content is currency. And COVID-19 has definitely changed the game because we have a lot more time available to us, for the most part, when we're not working, to be indoors, and we tend to be consuming content, whether that's a Netflix binge or, scrolling through social media. We're really always consuming content as long as we're plugged in, as long as we're online. And why should we only consume content? As far as I'm concerned, we should also be creating it. And I hope that you will agree with me by the time we get to the end of this presentation that everybody should be creating it. There's just never enough of good content. Now, before I go any further, I think I should dispel some myths. And why this is important is because when we are going into content creation and when we start to think about what we want to create, we have to think about our motives. If it's fame, fortune, millions of followers, if it's brand deals, etc., these may happen for you, but they might be the exception. You might not get all of these things or any of them, and they shouldn't be your motivator for wanting to create content. The fact is, these things are extremely rare, and when they do happen, you probably will be shocked. And they follow consistent, high quality content. So I think let's just set the groundwork straight, the content first, and then if these things come afterwards, then that's a bonus. Now, why should educators create content? I mean, let's face it, we already have enough that we do as educators. But adding something else to the plate is probably not what you're thinking of doing. Well, I've got good news for you, really. You are already creating content. And my thing is, you can then take this content that you're already creating and make it shareable, usable by others, and give it away, if you like, for want of a better word. We are in a sharing economy, and that includes schools. But schools are quite late in catching on to this whole idea of sharing. I don't know too many schools that are very much into sending their lesson plans across the web to other schools. I'm sure there are, don't get me wrong, but I would love to see this being commonplace. I'd love to see this being what every school does. Because right now, in private industry, in other sectors, this level of sharing is widespread. This kind of open source life, and this kind of I do a little, you add, then someone else adds some more. That is how it's being done in many, many sectors, in the tech industry, in, as many as you can name. They've all kind of moved in that direction of sharing content and sharing knowledge. And education is getting there. I've been in this region for the past 10 years. And when I came here, nobody was sharing anything virtually. But now there's so much sharing and so much richness, because that's now evolving. And I feel like this is yet to be mature. There is a lot more that can take place. There is a lot more that can happen. And I wanted to point out what I call the 3 C's of content creation. Because when we think of content creation, we need to think of it as not the myths that I busted earlier, but we need to think of them as contribution, adding credibility to what's out there, and connection. I cannot begin to tell you how many connections I have made simply by writing a blog post, or writing an article, or making a post somewhere, and it resonated with somebody. That person gets in touch, and we share knowledge, we share expertise. And this is all possible because of content creation. Now, I believe every educator, and I do mean every single one, should own their own personal space online. And this personal space should be separate from, your Facebook that you use to connect with your friends, or your Instagram that you use to show off your latest holiday photos. I'm talking about a professional space. I think every educator should have their own professional space online, where they showcase, or even just collect and curate their own content. And we'll talk about what that content can be as we move on through this slide. What's the benefit? What are the benefits? Career prospects. And I put career prospects because when you think of promotion and you think of moving schools, the CV or the resume is only a tiny part of what a lot of schools are looking at now. Schools are now looking at how you as an educator differentiate yourself. What do you offer that no other educator offer? What makes you special? What can you offer the students? What experience? What can you offer them that somebody else might not be able to? And how do you showcase that? How do you build up that evidence over time, so that when it comes to time for application or for interview, you can then just point someone to where you've been collating this information all along? This is how content creation can help you with your career prospects, building a personal brand. Now, let me pause on that one. Your name precedes you. If you have a space where you're sharing, doesn't have to be a wide audience. it just has to be the right audience, then that space where you share and people connect with you can then become your brand. People will know that this is who you are, this is what you stand for, and they will then be able to approach you with questions or for opportunities, etc. Just simply by having that space. And then the last one is just simply to share. Having that space and that ability to share. Because when we get knowledge and we develop our expertise, just simply sharing it is is beneficial, not just to us, but to the people who will take part and who will view and who will consume the content that you're creating. So these are some of the reasons why I think you should get onto it like quickly. Now, what kind of content do you create? There's so much. I think before you even begin to think about the type of content, take a moment, or maybe more than a moment really, to think about what you're good at. What do people come to you for? What are you known for in your school, among your colleagues? Are you the person who they go to when they have questions for literacy? Are you the numeracy person? Are you the IT specialist in your school, the unofficial IT specialist that everybody comes to when something is needed or when they have an idea? Are you the person that someone comes to when they want to find out what's the latest research ed book? Because if you are, and if you can narrow down what you're really, really good at, then you can start creating content in that area. Be very specific. Don't try to do everything and take everything in. No, but try to think of what you're good at so that when you're creating content, it's pleasurable, that it doesn't feel like a chore, that you would do it whether you have an audience of one or you have an audience of 5,000. So a little personal thing. I'm a geek, like I am a severe geek. So I will sit in my corner and I will read articles and blog posts for hours until someone says, okay, I think you've had enough for today. Normally my kids or my husband. And I realized how much pleasure I derived from just simply reading what people's thoughts are on different matters. And so that became my niche, where I started to write articles just commenting on what I've read. So for yourself, it's good to just sort of think of, what do I do that is so enjoyable, so pleasurable that I could just sit there and do it all day? Is it blogging? Can I make videos? Can I do podcasts? Can I write articles, lesson plans? All of those things are open and ripe for content creation. Do you know, if you have a website, a blog that just offered up your lesson plans for your grade and your subject to other teachers, how many teachers would come just to get ideas and to offer you ideas? It's such a fantastic opportunity as well to tap into other people's expertise. Now, if you think, for example, okay, I would like to start and I would like to do this, right? But I don't know where to start. My first advice to you is always start with whatever is free and easily available. So let's take blogging. WordPress.com, Blogger, they all offer free blogs. I think you can even set up a Wix site for free. I'm not quite sure. Google has sites that are free as well. There are lots of free. So start with free. Videos, YouTube is free. Flip your phone around, start talking in it, and just video quick tips for behavior management from Miss Brown. And that is as easy as that. 5 minutes, bang it up on YouTube, and don't worry about who watches it. Just continue to create that content and put it there And believe me, the right person, when you get asked a question, you go, you know what? I did a video on that, and here's the link, and you share it. Podcasts. Now, I stop at podcasts because a lot of educators are getting into podcasts. So if you are into talking and you have things to share and you don't want to be on a screen or you don't want to type it out, podcasts are great. They're fantastic. In fact, Anchor.fm, that's Anchor.fm, they give podcasts for free. Like, you can start a podcast for free and they will distribute it on your behalf to all the podcast platforms. So all you have to do, grab your phone, download their app, and talk. Okay, maybe it's not as simple as that. You might want to create a little artwork and you might want to put a little intro and an outro, but that's even secondary. You could do that after you've done a couple of episodes, but just put there. Can you imagine just doing a podcast about my school day today? And people tune in to hear how your school day was or what you did in your classroom. Or do you know how when you plan a lesson and you've taught that lesson and then you want to sit down now and evaluate how that lesson went, you could just sit down with your phone, open your Anchor app, and just talk about and talk through how the lesson went, what went well, what could have been better, what do you think you will do next time when you have your next class. And other people just tune in and listen. That is content creation. That is content sharing in its simplest form. Articles. Write an article. Submit it, if you like, to a magazine, to a newspaper. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in terms of sharing when we get to the next slide. Lesson tips and strategies. You might think that these things are not needed because there's so many out there, but I promise you, nobody does the things you do the way you do them exactly the same. It won't happen, and it won't happen simply because you're unique. No one will ever take a tip or give a tip exactly how you will do it. So I hope I'm convincing you to start creating some content. All right, I'm conscious of time, so on we go. Now, you've started to create your content, and you want to share it. So you want to give that content out to everybody. You can start a newsletter. And I would say start that in your school. Gather a couple of emails from your colleagues, whether it's in your school or inter schools. MailChimp is free. Once you are below a certain threshold, there are a lot of mailing software that are going to be free. You won't need to pay until you hit a certain threshold. So until then, why not get it for free? Collect those emails and send out your newsletters. A simple newsletter that tells everybody what your tips are, share an article that you've written. Ask their permission though. Definitely ask their permission. Hi, I'm starting a newsletter and I'd like to share that with you. Would you like to receive it? I'm going to send it once a week and I promise not to spam your inbox. Most people, I mean, I'm telling you from experience, most people will say yes. And when they do, that's a fantastic way of sharing your content. Whether that's a blog post, whether it's a podcast episode, whatever content you've decided that you're going to create, you can then share it with your newsletter. Social media. Now, when it comes to social media, it's a bit of a minefield, but choose one platform or two at most. My favorites are Twitter. Shout out to all my Twitter friends and followers out there. Listen, Twitter is great for educators. If you learn what the hashtags are that they're using, whether it's Teach UAE Chat, Teach Middle East, Collab UAE, there's so many, EdChat MENA. Get onto Twitter and share your content using those hashtags. Tag friends, tag colleagues, as long as they're okay with it. If they tell you not to do it, just stop. It's okay. There will be others. But once you share, people on social media, as long as the content resonates with them, they'll also share it with their colleagues. And that's how you get it out. If you're within a group of schools, the intranet within your school is also a good place to share your content. Um, one of the other ways that you can share your content once you've created it is to collaborate with other colleagues. So put a group together. So that might be a couple of you, or even 3 or 4 of you, who've decided that you're going to get together, you're going to create content. You might form a STEM team or a STEAM team, if you like. And then within your STEAM team, you decide, okay, we're going to create this content, and then each of us will be responsible for sharing it. So can you imagine if 5 of you share it to 50 people each? Do the math. If 5 of you share it to 100 people each, that's how you get it out. So that collaboration, because each of you will be creating and each of you will be sharing. And then the last one is submit articles. Pitch. Don't be shy. I get pitches every day, a lot. And I love getting them because it tells me that people are thinking of creating content and they're also thinking of sharing content. Magazines are out there, newspapers are out there. They rely on content. A little insider's tip: every single newspaper or magazine have a certain amount of content that they have to produce by a certain time. And if you know their schedule, you can almost nearly guarantee that you'll get published once or twice. So what you do is you write to the newspaper or you write to the magazine, you say, can I have your editorial calendar, please? And with that, you'll get their cutoff dates, their submission dates, and you'll also get their themes. What are they working on? What's coming up? And when you get that, you can start creating content that is tailored to that publication or to that issue. And if it's such a good match and if it's of high quality, believe me, they will be so happy to get it. They'll definitely publish it. Where people miss is because they might send a pitch when a magazine has just been published or they're not working on content right away, and then they don't hear back and you give up. Don't give up. Write them again and again. People are ready when they're ready, not when you're ready. So in order to get them where they'll pick your pitch or they'll take your article and publish it, then you need to make sure that you're writing to them several times, because at one of those times they're going to be ready for your content and they will publish it and put it out to thousands. When you write an article for Teach and it goes out, it goes to close to 70 or 1,000 people. So why not? Listen, I think it's a great, great idea. Now, let's carry on because I don't want to take all the time, but there are lots of educators right now who are doing fantastic work regarding content creation. Look them up. I won't go through them. This will be available as a PDF for you to see who these people are. Now, this is only 14 people that I could list because I was running out of space. But there are hundreds of educators who are creating good content. Join them. Get involved, because I think once you get involved and you realize that your unique voice is needed, you're going to be encouraged to continue. And that encouragement, it doesn't have to come from thousands of people. It could just be 4 or 5 people saying, listen, I read your article, or I listened to your podcast, or I saw your tips, or I used your lesson plan, or, oh my God, that resource that you made, my students loved it. They thought it was fantastic. All of those things will encourage you to carry on. So, but you definitely have to start. I think that's where it is. Right. So I wanna wrap this up quickly for you. If you are interested in creating content and you don't know where to start, or you just want to talk to somebody about how do I find my niche, or how do I narrow down? I like too many things. How do I narrow it down to 1 or 2 things that I can be presenting? Then connect with me. I'm more than happy, if I've got the time, to talk you through, or to just email you and we go back and forth with it. I can be contacted on Twitter at Leisa Grace, which is on your screen right now, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Just search me up. My name is Leisa Grace Wilson, or Teach Middle East is everywhere, but you can find me at my blog, lisagrace.com. That's where I live. It's more of a personal blog than an education one. I share tips and strategies on entrepreneurship and finance and, you know, just things that I'm personally passionate about, investing and things like that. But in general, though, I want you to start to create content. Thank you so much for listening. I know I rattled on quite fast, but please do get in touch with me. I'm also on the app. So once you've watched this and you want to ask me any questions, definitely just drop me a note, drop me a line. I'm happy, more than happy to answer your questions and to get in touch with you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the guest team who've organized this. You guys are fantastic. You do such a brilliant job. I've worked closely with you over the years and I absolutely admire you all. So thank you very, very much for the opportunity, and thanks again.
Thank you. Brilliant. That was very interesting, Leisa. Thank you so much for the great advice and tips. If you have any questions pertaining to the session, as Leisa said, you can also connect with her directly through the networking system on the virtual event platform. We'd also love to hear from you, so feel free to share any thoughts or comments by sending us an email to marketing@guesteducation.com. We'll be on social media as well during the summit, so if you want to chat to us there, follow us on Twitter @guesteducation and use the hashtags #GuestEdTech and #GuestDubai. This is just one of many on-demand videos that you can watch at any time during the summit, as well as full program of live keynote and panel sessions across both days. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you so much, Leisa, once again, and take care and bye-bye for now. Thank you.